how long will it take to implement the Foreign Influence Registry upon Bill C-70 receiving royal assent?
So thank you, Chair, for that question. It's something that is currently before Parliament, and we're going to see where it goes before Parliament. It is going to be a priority for us to set up the office based on the legislation if and when it is adopted to Parliament. We do recognize that there's significant interest in making sure that it is up and running before the next federal election. It is going to be a priority for us to set it up. There are numerous pieces of work that need to be done in terms of bringing in regulation to support implementation of the Act that will need to be done before we can actually bring it into force. It'll be up to the Governor and Council to determine when that coming into force is.
Well, thank you for that. Through you, Mr. Chair, there is regulation that needs to be set out, as well as setting up the commissioner who's going to oversee the registry. And so would it be fair to say it would take a number of months? Because my understanding, at least from the technical briefing, was that it may in fact take up to a year. Am I correct?
It could take up into a year. Not to get too much into the weeds in terms of bringing in regulations. There's a process for regulation, as the chair is aware. There's also a need in the legislation. The Commissioner for Transparency would be obligated to publish a registry to make known individuals who have registered. There is going to be a need to stand up the system so that people can register and that the Commissioner can then publish that registry online to make that information available. And so during the technical briefing, we did indicate that a year is what we're working towards and is the goal that we will attempt to meet.
Well, thank you very much for that. And there is clearly a lot of work to be done. And when I look at the calendar, it's May 30th, and there's only a few more weeks left before the House rises for the summer. And so looking at the next election, that's October of 2025. That's about a year away right now, having regard for the fact that we only have a few sitting weeks. And so this is just, this underscores a real concern that I have that this will not be in place in time for the next election. Right. And it's as a result of a government that has dragged its feet, dragged kicking and screaming to finally introduce a foreign influence registry, despite calls for years by security experts, by diaspora communities, by conservatives. Indeed, it is, I would submit, not a coincidence that this legislation was introduced the day after the first sitting day after the damning report of Madam Justice Hogue, a damning report, an indictment of the government, an indictment of the Prime Minister. This is nothing more than an attempt by this government to use this bill for political cover in the face of conclusions that demonstrate that that we have a Prime Minister who turned a blind eye to foreign interference. And I have to say, the delay is unacceptable because consultations for a foreign influence registry ended 1 year ago. And therefore, had the government introduced legislation a year ago, we would have a foreign influence registry in place well ahead of the next election. But because these Liberals have delayed and failed to act, here we are with the very real possibility that we won't have a foreign influence registry in place. And if there is one in place, it will be right at the time that the election is called, which raises questions about its effectiveness during the campaign period. And given the timeline that we have, it is why Conservatives believe that it is absolutely imperative that we move this legislation forward quickly, It's why my colleague, Mr. Chong, the member for Wellington-Halton Hills, introduced a motion yesterday in the House of Commons to see that this bill would pass through all legislative stages in the House by June the 12th. But incredibly, yesterday in the House, the government's coalition partner, the NDP, blocked Mr. Chong's motion. And so here we have the coalition partner of the Liberals who've dragged their feet for years, who are now obstructing moving this bill through Parliament. And I can't help wonder why that is. It certainly demonstrates that Jagmeet Singh, once again, is an unserious leader, having regard for the fact that he doesn't see the need to move this along. And it raises questions about whether the NDP is doing the government's dirty work.
Calm down, Ron. Holy crap.
The rules, please.
Yeah, you follow the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. We're going now to Ms. Said. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Chair.
Gentlemen.